to the Analyst desk for a breakdown of that series-tying win.
Thank you, Freak. Tied up the series. Here it is, boys. We go into Game 5, possible reverse sweep. Fusion, as they mentioned, have these two games of the same bands, Annie, Kennen, Ziggs. However, they are switching sides, and that's, as Freak mentioned, kind of where I guess we'll find out whether or not their pick band strategy will unravel, because they're putting a lot of priority here on getting Kiwi Kid off of the Annie and the Kennen and keeping Shifter off of that high AoE burst damage from Ziggs.
Yeah, it's actually been a really strange kind of development, because the first game we saw Fusion was banning Rumble. Now Dignitas are banning Rumble, because it's just after that champion gets let through and the series develops, you see who's actually good on what champions. So Fusion are like, okay, we don't need to ban Gragas ever. Zingy, we're not that scared of it. Then Dignitas is like, okay, we can leave Gragas up for something else because they're going to play Sejuani. Now, they really don't get the chance to play Sejuani again on Fusion's side, so their team fighting might go a little down in this next game, because they might give it up first priority, first pick. And now Sivir is kind of fallen by the wayside in favor of team fighters like Jinx for Nien. And I think this is really big for Fusion, because they'll be able to counterpick one of their lanes, and I think it'll probably be, like, it could be AD carry, but I think it's probably going to be that mid lane matchup.
All right, but you mentioned the Jinx, and I want to kind of jump on that, because we see the lane swap come through this game, and it paid off enormously this time around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that lane swap was really, I mean, they need to do that. Their lane wasn't that great early, and once Jinx got rolling, she just rolls over the game, and Fusion played that lane swap well, and they got ahead. They also had Hecarim bottom, and was able to do a 1v1 against the Sivir, so Hecarim was ahead. Their AD carry, this farms is fine, and that's just Hecarim being ahead is also really good. He got 2 kills early as well, and allowed him to snowball the game for the Jinx, and gave Jinx enough kills to help snowball the rest of the game.
Yeah, and it never really became this type of situation, because they went to Smite top lane, and he got Cinder Hulk and challenging Smite, so he was going to be able to challenge Core JJ at all parts in the game. With the 500 range Sivir, he's going to be constantly kiting backwards versus the Hecarim, and then Jinx is just taking pot shots at the entire team. So the way that Fusion's playing these team fights around Nien, this is the Fusion that I thought we were going to see from like game 1. This is their strength. This is how they like to play off of lane swaps. So this is going to throw a big wrench into Dignitas' plans, and they're going to have to react here.
Yeah, even beyond the lane swap itself, we saw them literally feeding kills to Nien, right?
Yep.
Hecarim had the opportunity to pick up kills, and
Except
they
for
found
that last one.
Yeah, except for that last one where Nintendo decided to scumbag that one away from him. But, you know, even on Hecarim, where that gold would be put to good use, right? Even like moving through the early and mid-game, Hecarim, such a powerful champion with that challenging smite, would have been, you know, fine 1v1 against anyone. They're still deciding to give it to Nien, which just kind of shows you the strategy of that team, which is trying to get him ahead.
He hit the shot caller. If you're ahead, it's much easier to shot call and call out your position and how you want to play the team fight, especially as a kind of unorthodox AD carry shot caller. So the faster he gets into the mid-late game and can knock down turrets effectively, the faster Fusion comes online as a team.
All right, but we've also, what we saw there was Hecarim, Jinx getting ahead. So that's 2-1 lanes for Fusion. I mean, that's huge, right? On the flip side, Dignitas, Shifter got that early kill, the first blood, onto Kassadin. And we had talked about Kassadin earlier today, whether or not we were going to see him. He did come out. Unfortunately, wasn't enough to carry the team. And that has to bring into question Dignitas' strategy going into this final game here, whether or not they should be focusing that mid lane or going back to focusing that bottom lane. They found a lot of success when they can get Core JJ and Kiwi Kid into the 2v2 and actually, you know, utilize them to get their kills. But even if they can't find the 2v2 here, can they get the gold onto them quickly? Can they push turrets down and then rotate earlier in the game?
What I expect to see in this game is similar to game 1, where, I mean, a huge part of picks and bans is what side you're on, and when you're blue side, you're open to a ton of bans. You get first pick priority, so if you're scared of a champion, you just pick it. But on red side, you're scared of a champion, get to ban it. And that's the problem right now. They're banning 2 champions just on support. You can't afford to do that when you're on purple side. If you do, you're going to leave at least a Hecarim. If not, then they're like a Rumble or like Sejuani. And all these champions are huge priorities for teams. And I'm really interested to see how Fusion is going to take this. Because in the first game, they gave up too many champions. They counterpicked poorly, and they lost the games in laning phase, and it can easily happen again if they pick poorly again.
Yeah, we saw the Sejuani in Nintendo's hands working out much better this time around. Even though they did have the win prior, I feel just more of the ults were connecting. He seemed to kind of fall into that play a bit more. But again, as you mentioned, moving on to Red's side here, might not have the opportunity to play that champion again. As we've seen in Game 1, they had to ban it out themselves, right? And then Azingi goes and picks up the Gragas. So is this the kind of scenario where we see them leave up the Sejuani and take the Gragas in response so they at least get something else in the jungle?
I think so, because if they, like right now, Fusion are showing they're good at team fights. Get Nintendo on a team fighting jungler. You don't want them on Rek'Sai, you don't want them on Nidalee, you want them on either Gragas or Sejuani, so you leave both them up so you guarantee yourself at least one of them. That would be my opinion on it.
All right. I do want to jump into our replay from this game. We're going to the Dragon River. It's where Jinx picks up her triple kill. We're going to pull that up on your screens right now, and especially, I'm actually going to have you walk us through this one if you don't mind.
Oh boy. All right, so in this setup, the game is very even right here, and because Fusion already started Dragon, they're actually not in the best of positions, but let's just watch what happens and see how Fusion actually plays out this fight. So Azingi goes in. So a really, really good Black Shield from Trance and allows Nian to not get knocked back, and Azingi couldn't really get it all on her either. Nintendo gets a good ultimate. Cordy actually shields it, but it's fine. And they're kiting back. Nian gets some good crits here. QBK gets a good ultimate, but he gets binded, and he's getting crit the whole time. Nian gets a really good double kill and with his ultimate, and he keeps chasing. Really good ult from Hecarim as well. Follows the Sivir through her flash, and Nian tries to go for the penta here, but it's a little too late and doesn't get the penta.
Man, he crit 5 out of 7 shots there.
Yeah.
That was crazy. And they were AoE rockets, too. That was beastly.
Rolling a little high on the RNG there with the crits, but again, that showcases the Sejuani with the Jinx layered on top of it, and it nullified any of Shifter's presence in that fight. Shifter Rift walks in, gets immediately stunned up, and has to Rift walk out. So no damage was actually coming out of that. Kassadin, who they are relying on to get to the back line and kill that Jinx. So, you know, again, if we're putting it in the scope of what's going to happen next game, I love the Kassadin pick as well. I love the Kassadin as a champion, but I feel like they need to be cognizant then of what they're picking it into and whether or not he'll actually be able to be effective going into that back line.
Yeah, it would have been so hard either way. Because of the fact that it was a Lulu, he's going to whimsy him. He's going to actually give shields to whoever his target is. So the wild growth, if he did ever reach Nian, would have been a big problem, and he would have had to shred through that as well. So he would have been even be further ahead as Kassadin to be a big impact in this game.
One thing I expect to see next game is definitely the Ziggs ban. Even though you can't afford too many target bans, Ziggs was a champion that Shifter played in the first 2 games really, really well. And once that champion was banned, Fusion's doing a lot better. So I expect to see that ban. Probably an anti-ban as well. And I'm curious to see what the dirt ban is going to be. And this is pretty expected bans. And if Shifter's on a non-Ziggs, can he still have pressure? And we're not seeing that in the last 2 games. I want to see some pressure this game.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's like side wave clear too, because they were really struggling on Fusion to actually deal with side waves.
Well, you both called it to be a close series either way here, and yes, we are going into Game 5, so cue up Silver Scrapes, and when we return, we'll see who will be playing in the North American LCS Summer Split, Team Dignitas or Team Fusion. Stay with us.